Hey everybody, so this is for Howlermouse's purging contest. Sorry, just got over this cold. For his five favorite comics contest. I I'm gonna cheat here a little and only show three of them because I haven't really packed my collection yet. It goes back like three long boxes at this point. It's like four tall and three deep, and I just can't do it right now today. I'm busy. I mean, I'm doing this video because I should be doing something else, and I have the house to myself this morning, so I want to talk about comics before I get back to doing the stuff that I have to do. Anyway, so let's do it. We'll start with the books I can't show because they're hidden in my mass magnitude of it's organized. It's just disheveled, and I don't really want to move stuff. It's me. Okay. The two books I can't show because they're over there, hidden, and I don't have them in trades. And a lot of this stuff, it's like my favorites. I'll just go ahead and double dip, or like one of them is just something I have in trade. You have Batwoman, the New 52, the J.H. Williams, the third stuff. Hands down, some of my favorite comics ever. And it's weird because this totally wasn't something I probably would have picked up, but it was recommended to me by several people here on the YouTubes. So I figured I'd give it a shot, and I was blown away. Blown away by the art, blown away by the story, blown away by how it affected me when that book ran its course because DC wouldn't let them do what they had always planned on doing. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you just need to go read it. It is amazing. It really is. And it's rare, I think, unless I'm just missing it or this particular character radiated with me more than most everything else DC does. It's like you have, clearly they had a vision. They had a plan. They were going to take the character from point A to point B, and from what I understand, they initially had an okay to do that, and then when it finally got to that point, DC was like, ooh, no. And I don't really get what the point is. I don't understand why they said no. It wasn't this thing that came off as contrived. It fit with the character. It went with the story. The fan base, you know, they had the support of the fan base. A lot of people were pissed when it didn't happen. So, I mean, I don't understand why. I don't get that. And I think that was a shame. So you have like I was invested in the art, and I was invested in the story, and I was looking forward to it. And I came in on that like way late. I think it already actually was done by the time I got into it. But tracking down the singles was just, it was a lot of fun. And once I had them all, not all, I would get like four in a row and start reading them, and it blew me away. It truly did, to the point that I would go back and try to find some other J.H. Williams stuff that he had done, and he has done some stuff since. He did that Sandman miniseries, which was great, but it didn't really. The art was amazing. His art's amazing, but like the story didn't quite resonate with me as much as it did with Batwoman. Excuse me. Great, great, great book. Top 10 all-time favorites, hands down. And that's weird because I'm not particularly a DC guy. I don't really read a lot of modern books. You know, like my second favorite book that I'm not going to dig out because it's over there somewhere would have to be like the Chris Claremont, Mark Silvestri X-Men stuff. That was what initially got me into collecting. I remember I was at the time I would mow yards and rake leaves and stuff like that. I was just a kid in Tennessee at this point, and between I could either ride the bus home or I could walk. It was a couple miles, but I didn't mind. And I had to cross like this 6-lane interstate, which always kind of pissed off my parents. But they between my school and my house was a comic shop, and this was really the first one that I had ever seen. It was called Viking Comics. Like the local high school mascot was a Viking, so it was Viking Comics. In retrospect, it was kind of a dumpy little shop, but you know, it was a place for me to spend my my leaf raking, mowing yards money, and I would bang out like 6-7 yards in a weekend. I mean, I was doing pretty good for a 12-year-old. And I'd walk in there, and it would be like, ooh, the X-Men. And it was always so cool. And at the time, this is like the Outback stuff. So if any of you guys know what I'm talking about, that's cool. Like, everybody was like, yeah, Jim Lee and the Chris Claremont stuff was great, and it was, but the X-Men at this point were kind of broken and kind of defeated, and they were hiding. And I think Silvestri's art just kind of fit a little bit more with that, the rough around the edges, and these were people that were broken at this point, and it was just kind of cool because they're superheroes, but they're still going through like problems, like the logistics of living, and they just want to be left alone, and then of course they don't get to be left alone, and it was just great. That's still nostalgically some of my favorite stuff. There's stuff that I look back on now that's in my collection. I'm like, man, I remember getting this book, like my copy of Hulk 181. I remember the day I got that book. It was the same kind of thing. It was I had my money through mowing yards, and there was a flea market that was 2 or 3 miles from the comic shop. And we went in there one day. We were looking, it was me, my parents, and my sister. They were looking for like knickknacks or something. And lo and behold, they had like 20 long boxes of comics. And I'm like, sweet comics. So I'm digging and digging and digging and digging and digging. And I had like $60 on me at this point. And I'm like, man, this is great, because they had a bunch of stuff. And then they had a little short box with all the expensive books. They only wanted $50 for 181. I was like, I got $50. Like, I'm a mom, I'm like, I'm going to spend a bunch of money. She goes, it's your money, you can do whatever the hell you want to with it. I was like, all right. So it came down between a copy of Avengers #4 or the Hulk 181. They were both about the same price. And I still have that Hulk 181 to this day. It's in that room over there. I might hang it up on the wall. So yeah, it was the X-Men. And then I read X-Men all the way through Jim Lee's stuff, all the way until they started with the second series where they renumbered it and had the 5 covers. This was the 90s, and the gimmicky stuff, and the gatefolds, and all that jazz, which is just kind of funny and reminds me a lot of the speculation market that's going on now with the variants. But it is what it is. You stay in the same hobby or the same passion for long enough, and you kind of notice an algorithm and an ebb and flow of how everything goes. It's funny. Okay. This coffee is from a local place here in town called Messenger Coffee. It's Ethiopian. It's amazing. They do it all in-house. Got a little like black tea and some nectarine in there. It's great, nice and dry, how I like my coffee. Okay, so those are the 2 books that I can't show because I'm too lazy to dig them out. And now let's get to the stuff that I can show. Excuse me. So, and in no discernible order, we have East to West. I'm okay, I promise. As far as current books go, at one point I had like 12 books on my pool, and then I cut that down, and then I cut it down again, and then I think at one point I was down to East to West Saga in Harrow County, all of which are great. But then I just kind of dropped my pool list, and I just go and I track down the back issues. I'm thinking about doing an order off of like Midtown, because their stuff is a little cheaper than the place I was getting my stuff. I usually just do like a big order through my comic shop. Anyway, screw it. East to West. So we got Nick Dragotta and Jonathan Hickman. I should say Jonathan Hickman and Nick Dragotta, but anyway, you can like Nick or Jonathan Hickman or dislike Jonathan Hickman, whatever. What is it, the Monday Morning Murders? I couldn't really get into that. It was fine, it just wasn't really my deal. But this kind of clicked. I have this interest in comparative mythology and religion. So this is an interesting little spin on that. This book is about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse trying to start the apocalypse on like this alternate future past Earth where a comet hits, I think it was in Colorado during the Civil War, and then the message showed up, and the message is what they're going to use to start the Civil War, or not the Civil War, the apocalypse. This is great. It's most people kind of think it was a little dry. It's a character study. There is a lot of background and a lot of people in this book, and then it's a complete arc in regards to these people, which is great. I mean, he's taken his time, and that's kind of what Hickman is good at. He builds worlds, and I really dig the one he's building here. So yeah, we got Batwoman New 52, Mark Silvestri, Chris Claremont, X-Men stuff from the 90s, and East to West. Those are three. I need another sip of this. So good. Promise I'm okay. Up next, and I don't have this in singles, and I don't even know it came out in singles, but I just don't really, I haven't really been interested in tracking it down in singles because I like this format, because this is something I feel comfortable taking this off my shelf and reading, because I have read this a lot, and this always blows me away. You have books that initially make, or at least with me, initially make a like an emotional impact, like We Three, or like Why the Last Man almost made this cut, and Preacher almost made this cut, but I'm not over that. It's just I think I've already kind of absorbed all that material, so it doesn't really. I find myself when I read it, like I read ahead, if that makes sense. It's like, yeah, this is it's like you're just hanging out with a friend versus like meeting somebody now. But so we have Grindel's Devil Child. This is by Deanna Schultz and Tim Sell. I picked this up because I was going through this. I'm a fan of Tim Sell, and I was just seeing what he did, and this was cool. I don't really want to give this away either, but this is totally worth checking out. It's weird because I have read some of Grindel stuff that Matt Wagner has written, and I've talked to people who are bigger Grindel fans than I am. Excuse me, and they were all okay that Diana Schultz is the one that wrote this. She was a longtime editor on Grindel, and Tim Sell's art in this is just phenomenal. Excuse me. Let's see. Here we go. Here's some Tim Sell greatness. But this will, it's a little disturbing, but not in, I think, a bad way. It's the same kind of thing. This is a character study of how far you can push someone before they push back, and what happens when they push back. I sound like a psycho, but this was great. I might leave this out and read this later. This is really, really, really good. This is also in my top 10 like favorite evers. And then last but not least, we got this big bad boy right here. This is my Grant Morrison's Animal Man Omnibus. Excuse me. And I have all these in singles. I kind of just stumbled onto Animal Man because I was running out of Doom Patrol. I have a complete run. I'm missing 2 issues of Doom Patrol, and then I have all of them for 3. I'm sorry, 3. Double check my list this morning. 3 issues of Doom Patrol from its inception to not the current season or series, but the previous one. So that's really cool. And I kept seeing Animal Man in all of like the Vertigo boxes I would dig through at the shops that have all separated like that for some reason. And it's weird because it's the same kind of thing. I didn't really have a opinion on Animal Man. I think I'd seen him in Crisis, in Infinite Earth, maybe. I mean, everybody was in that, but just for like not even just like a bleep. You know what I'm saying? Like he's that guy in the background standing next to these other 14 people who are getting killed by these shadow blowing up monsters. Anyway, so I think what it was is I was a little more open-minded about the character. In reading this, particularly the issue where Grant Morrison shows up, narcissistic little fucker. It's great. I mean, there's so much that got the envelope in comics and what you can do in comics got pushed, I think, really far with this book. Grant Morrison was kind of on top of his game with the writing on this. It's a little esoteric, but not enough that you can't really follow what the hell is going on. It's not the Invisibles. It's not Nameless. You know, it's pretty straightforward, and he's a family man, and he's got a family, and I have a family, and you know, and it's this guy just kind of trying to do the best that he can with what he has, and then they go into an explanation about his backstory and how it all happened. And I'm sure it was a retcon, because I'm pretty sure this wasn't how they thought about stuff in the 60s, 50s, whatever. But this was also a great book. He becomes like an animal rights activist at some point, which just makes sense, clearly, because he's an animal man. He's a vegetarian, and I just kind of flipped through this book off camera. But this was also very, very cool. Sorry, my coffee just kicked in, and that shit is strong. Highly recommend it. I got this from In Stock Trades. It was stupid cheap. The cover price on this is $75. I think I paid like $30. And it was well worth it, because now I don't have to dig out my singles, which are over there somewhere. Yeah. So, Why the Last Man was runner-up. Not East to West. Preacher was runner-up. My cat's on the table. That's Frida. Named after Frida Kahlo. Alright, man. Cool. That's all I got. Thanks for the contest. Oh yeah, I hit 50 subs. What? So I got a bunch of shit that I want to get rid of, so I might have contests here shortly. Work's been stupid busy. I got a promotion. I am the executive chef at my restaurant now. We're rolling out a new menu in a couple of weeks. If anybody ends up in my neck of the woods, KC Mo, Kansas City, let me know, and I will invite you to dinner. All right. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later. Bye.